general. These cars did not run in the wet conditions yesterday.
That's a very good point. So not a lot of track time. I don't think we've seen much rain this year at all. So this is a little bit of a new environment, as you pointed out, for some of these drivers here. Starting the second pace lap now, and you can see the clock has in fact started. It's considered now a safety car scenario. And the green flag, when they come up to green, they are going to do it line astern, single file, not side by side.
And again, that's just for safety. You just don't want too much going on. It's so easy to touch, and there's such low grip. If you have a little bump in dry conditions, you just get on with it. Where you have a bump in these conditions, very easy to spit a car sideways, and with a big pack of cars coming to that first corner, don't want to do that. The big visibility issue is the spray, of course. So when you're buried in the pack, they're going to start single file, but expect to see them spread immediately once they cross that stripe, so they can get some visibility down into the brake zone.
Working right now underneath the legendary Sargento Bridge here as they come running up through that turn 3 you talk about. And it's interesting, Cal, you look at that track map, turn 3 looks tight. But this track is so big that that corner tends to go on a while, and you roll serious speed through there.
You do, and I think that's the key with this racetrack. Sometimes you'll see big margins in terms of the pace of one car over another. You see, how can they be half a second quicker? Well, it's 14 turns, and those corners are long. There's a lot of landscape in there, do you know what I mean? So you're in the corner for a long time. It's not just you're in and you're out of it and you're on your way again. So the car has to maintain its balance for much longer through the middle of the corner, and that is really hard for a car and a tire to do.
And then you add in these conditions. It's going to make for a very interesting one. Anticipating a green flag this time, we'll be watching the Acura Safety Car, the official safety vehicle of the SRO Motorsports America Series, as they work now through turn 8, one of 2 particularly tricky downhill braking zones.
Yes, and that's going to be the key as well. Not just the grip through the corners, but down into the brake zones. I think what you typically will see is a lot of these drivers getting off the normal racing line, so they'll brake in the middle of the road where there's a bit more aggregate, there's a bit more bite in the surface. With the racing line, this racetrack is pretty old now in terms of since it was last resurfaced, other than some patching. So it gets polished, it gets smooth. That's where all of the oil and rubber goes down. So you're going to go offline. You're looking for grip. You're looking for, typically, if you're hearing stuff hitting your inner fenders, like you're offline, and normally that means you're in trouble.
Right.
Today, that means you're in good shape.
Right, exactly. And the carousel here, you've got to be willing to run that rim shot around there. It really, there's a very little runoff if you do go off, but that's generally where the grip is. So it's certainly going to keep things interesting, and we'll see who can deal with it best here as the field now working through the kink and the part of the track called Kettle Bottoms, heading down to Canada Corner and Thunder Valley. And we're keeping an eye out here for that safety vehicle to let us know exactly if those lights go out, if we are going to be going to green. And certainly James Clay pretty anxious, and the lights are out. Lights are out on the Acura safety vehicle, the official safety vehicle of the championship. Touring cars will be taking the green. Clock started after the start of the second pace lap, so the clock is underway, but the race will officially be starting in terms of green flag as they come up the hill. James Clay in the Copart Bimmerworld BMW on the pole with great experience there, but behind him, experience in Toby Grahovic, experience in Johan Schwartz. This is a steep field, and that is a steep climb up the hill. Looking for the green flag for us to complete this 12th round of the championship. We are green, and Clay and Grahovic getting a big jump on Schwartz, and Grahovic getting a great run, Cal.
Well, there's a big draft effect here on these long, high-speed straightaways. We saw that as Grahovic and James Clay battled out for the lead here yesterday. Federal slots into that 4th position. Jeff Ricker, our pole sitter from yesterday, in 5th.
I think that was a pretty savvy move. Clay was kind of in the middle of the track looking for grip. Yeah, and Schwartz looking to the inside of Grahovic down into 3. I was going to say into 1. I don't think Toby was too upset to have Clay offline just a little bit because it gave him that little bit of visibility. Meanwhile, Johan is just being buried in spray.
He is, and it looks like he's probing, but certainly being a little bit conservative. Even though he's clinched that championship, as Ryan alluded to, he said, I want to keep my drive for next year, which is a little bit of irony there, but he's now getting that big double punch draft coming down into the brake zone for turn 5. See Clay there in the middle of the road. Schwartz on the normal racing line. Grahovic still holds the inside, but Johan gets on the power early. Could clear Grahovic in the climb up to turn 6.
And Grahovic, if he's going to do it, you've got to be alongside early. Not quite there. Johan giving him a little bit of room. But as a result, Grahovic still had to pinch that corner a bit, and Johan is through into second. And I'll tell you, being up front in these conditions with that visibility is a massive deal. I wonder if Johan's saying, if I can get there, why not?
I'll tell you what I'm impressed with is how well these cars are handling, not just the BMWs, but everyone. No one's really slipping and sliding that much right now, so these Pirelli P0 wet tires are really cutting through this water very effectively.
And the one thing is it's just wet out there. It's not that damp where it can be very greasy and slippery. It's just completely wet, which at least makes it a bit more predictable, doesn't it?
It does, and it doesn't mean that you got to go searching for water because you're in it anyway. You're running on the racetrack.
Exactly.
You're not so worried about saving the wet weather tires, overheating them. It's only a 40-minute race. We lost a little bit of that green flag running time with the extra formation lap, so it should just be go hard, use the tires as aggressively as you want to.
That's a great sound, those cars whistling through that ultra-fast Kettle Bottoms section of the track into Canada Corner at speed.
Curious to know, you can obviously change the rear wing angle on these cars to give you a little bit more rear bite, but that can also change the balance. So curious to know if any of the teams added some downforce for these wet conditions. And then the key is, does it maintain the balance? You just don't want more rear grip. It doesn't want to create too much understeer in the race car. But James Clay looking pretty comfortable here up front early.
And rolling out of turn 14, climbing the hill. And it's great to see that certainly Cameron Evans is in this field. They had some pretty good damage when he and Paul Terry got together. It looks like Paul Terry in the rear Nissan, the only car not able to recover from that incident. And get your boy to Grahovic, get a run. Pops to the outside of Schwartz as they head into turn one. Is he close enough? Not quite.
No, it's just a big draft effect. We saw it didn't matter. It wasn't one particular car over another. If you were the following car, you just got a big launch up that front straightaway. We're ready to attack by the time you get to the middle pedal of the brakes for turn one.
A little bit of a gap developing now between the fourth place car, the 23 Bossman products, Nissan of Joseph Federal, and the 78 Gen Racer Genesis Coupe of Ricca. There's Federal in that white Nissan, and then that gap has appeared just a little bit. Federal's willing to stay right with these guys. He qualified for yesterday's race second. Didn't get the finish he wanted, but here comes Schwartz working that outside line. He likes this outside.
He does, and he's getting good braking ability there. So I found this when I raced here in the rain when I first came here, Greg, that there's not a distinctive rain line here as much as some other circuits, and that was a great demonstration of that. The fact that Johan could brake equally effectively as James Clay in the middle of the road, where theoretically James Clay should have had more grip. Johan looking to the inside. Clay just gives him a little bit of room, but it wasn't enough to avoid contact.
Clay back on. Here comes Grahovic. Clay's going to try and out deep to the inside into 8. Grahovic going to ramp the outside. Big slide by Toby. That's going to help Clay out.
Yeah, he gave him plenty of room, but said, I don't want to give you the position. He went back to power and just lost the rear end momentarily. So Johan Schwartz moves to the front. Just tough through that corner, particularly with a lack of grip. You're going to have a little bit of a slide, and suddenly there's a touch. And if you're on the outside, you're going for a ride.
And you can see from some of the camera shots, this rain is picking up just a little bit, coming down in a bit more intense manner right now. Grahovic really quick there through the kink.
Yeah, Schwartz did not look comfortable there through that corner. I'm not sure if he wants to give that position back, potentially, feeling that he maybe made a bump and run and doesn't want to get any kind of issue from the stewards, but certainly very conservative run by Johan Schwartz there through the kink. Looked like James Clay had a lot more speed than him at that phase of the racetrack.
Boy, I thought right there that Clay might try and square up underneath, and Johan, I think, sensed it as well and exited the turn a little shallow to dissuade the experienced James Clay. Let's go back and take a look at that pass that you were talking about.
Well, this is coming down into turn 5. This is where it started to develop. So Johan makes that outside run there deep into the brake zone, got good grip. Clay gets the climb up the hill. Johan tucks back in, and then as they go through turn 7 there, you see that little touch. They're trying to give each other respect, enough racing room, but Clay goes for a bit of a ride and loses the position.
As you said, difficult corner, that turn 7, it falls away, no camber to help, and a little bit of a contact, but the driver who clinched the championship in yesterday's 11th round leads now early on in the wet in round 12. with James Clay sitting second and Toby Grahovic third. Well, that little bit of bump and go has allowed Federo to close that little margin he had lost up, but they've maintained. It's about 3.5 seconds from Federo, Cal, back to Ricca in that 5th spot.
Yeah, it looks like Ricca cannot quite hang with this leading quartet. Just to see as these BMWs battle out whether that Nissan could get to the front. Certainly, Federo is doing a nice job of hanging with the leaders. Big gap back to Nimkov, and then there's Hull leading the next pack.
And Cameron Evans, who started basically at the back because he did not get any kind of a time, has already worked his way up to knocking on the door of the top 10, sitting in the 11th spot right now with Hannah Zellers going with him.
Just really impressed. I mean, this is a treacherous racetrack and everyone seems pretty much under control. So the tires, the cars are working well. I'll be honest with you, Greg, I wasn't sure we were going to see any green flag action early here this morning based on the thunderstorms that rolled through here early.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was coming down. We had lightning and the whole thing, but you can see that rain is picking up seriously right now. Chandler Hull, not a ton of experience compared to some of the other people in the field, having a really good run here in the 7th spot. And Steve Strymer, who had qualified for this, started in the 6th spot, dropped way back in the early going here and has fought his way back up now and into that 9th spot. I think he just got around Peter Atwater. Atwater making a late start to the season here, running the last couple of races in the new light BMW. I think Strymer just snuck by him, and that gives him 8th.
Yeah, and he's starting to put pressure on Hull at the same time. So starting to feel it, feeling the rhythm, getting some confidence going.
Rain coming down with even more intensity at this stage of the race, but pretty fierce action happening on the track as well. We've got some great battles unfolding as Steve Strymer right here working over young Chandler Hull. This is for the 7th spot. Hull defending a little bit in the 3rd of the 3 Copart BMW team here this weekend. Strymer behind him in that yellow and very deep blue BMW
wiggle there.
Him. Yep.
That's a really treacherous part of the racetrack. As you come out of Canada corner, you can see the way that the pavement has been laid, like in lanes. And as you cross over that, if you don't stay in the lane, it's really easy to lose the rear end.
And we just saw evidence of that. Meanwhile, up front, Johan Schwartz, who was supposedly going to be taking this easy. Ryan, what changed?
Well, that's a good question, and actually there's a little bit of confusion down here as well. There was a race control message that just came to the Rooster Hall team, and it was a little bit garbled, so no one's quite sure what's going on. But Eric Meyer is here to hopefully help us parse some of these things. We'll start with what you know about the start. We know there was a little bit of contact between Johan and James, but Johan's been pretty quiet, right?
Yeah, Johan hasn't said anything out there, and he obviously loves these wet weather conditions. With all the drifting experience that he's got, he just, every time we go racing, he wants it to rain.
We're being told that he's being given a sportsmanship flag, and it sounds like we've just gone full course yellow as well. So we'll get it back to you guys in the booth. Hopefully we can sort this all out down here, and we'll chat again later.
Yeah, Ryan, we just saw the same message from race control about the sportsmanship flag, and that's basically a warning flag. No doubt about that contact, but we have gone full course caution and haven't seen anybody that's been off track necessarily. Although on our, we may have the 09 having a bit of a problem out there. That's Greg Nitzkowski. We'll have to check on that. Might be the cause for the yellow here. But there's one of the Road America safety vehicle teams, and they are responding to something. So we are full course caution. Is that a piece of debris on the?
I did notice just as we went to yellow that Johan Schwartz, there's the car off of the guardrails. There's been damage there.
Yeah, that's Nitzkowski, I believe, in the Dynamic Racing Solutions entry. That's unfortunate.
Johan Schwartz came barreling down into turn 5 and was really deep on the brakes and was trying to get it all together there.
James Clay has fast lap of the race now at a 2-minute 50.722. And considering their race pace in the dry yesterday was 2:27s, that gives you an idea of just how damp and gripless this track is. But Nitzkowski parked up against the barriers, and that's the reason for this full course caution. Gives everybody a little chance to regroup here. So as we sit here under this caution, it's Johan Schwartz leading over yesterday's winner, James Clay, Toby Grahovic, Joseph Federo, and Jeff Rika, your top 5 right now. And if he got it done right before that caution came out, Cameron Evans not only is continuing his march through the pack, he snuck by Steve Strymer and got up behind his teammate. And the interesting thing here is, you remember that big gap we were talking about with Federo back to Rika, and then another gap from Rika back to the rest of the field. Everybody now is going to be able to just get right up on everybody's tail, and if they've figured things out a little bit and are a bit more comfortable, they'll be able to maybe join some of these battles here, Cal.
Yeah, I think it's a nice sort of like pause in the action for these drivers to really reevaluate. Okay, where can I gain a little bit of time? It seemed like the front trio on those last laps, look, they were their best laps so far in this race. They were starting to stretch things a little bit. Yes. So I'm not sure whether that Nissan and the Genesis Coupe has anything for them, but I think it's going to reinvigorate James Clay. I mean, Schwartz got that unsportsmanship-like flag, and it had to have been for that little contact that we saw over in turn 7. He was to the inside, and who knows? It's hard to lay the blame. There just wasn't enough racing room, but certainly he's going to be aware of that. I thought initially that he was going to slow down and let Clay have the position back so that he doesn't indeed draw a full penalty where he got a drive-through or anything, but...
Well, and you talked about how, I mean, that turn 7 is so tricky. You know, it's very quick, absolutely off camber all the way through it. And in these conditions, very easy to have a little bit of a slip there. And just that little bit of a touch, and that was enough to send Clay off in these conditions as well. Still working on getting the Nitzkowski car removed from that area there. I'd be honest with you, Cal, I'm not sure where that is.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Yeah, from this angle. Clock, of course, continuing to tick along. 40 minutes race. And Schwartz has clinched the championship. We've documented that, but there's certainly some good battling going on for points positions behind him. And this and 2 more rounds to go at the big season finale out in Las Vegas. And you see the Gale lifts that are put to such great use here by the Road America safety team. When they bring those out, it's usually to move one of those great big concrete barriers.
Yeah, he must have had a pretty good hit there. I'm not sure if he just got into the... Is this the approach up to 13?
I think so. Yeah, I think he... the exit of 12, we're looking up to 13, so I wonder if the old classic snapped across.
Yeah, it's such a strange... It caught me out twice in a race here many years ago. But when you accelerate out of there, it's like if you cross over, like there's lanes of pavement that have been laid, and it's like if you get your left side of the car and the right side on, it kind of pulls one side more than the other, and you feel this twitch, and it's like, what's going on? I'm accelerating. I'm off where the traction should be an issue any longer, and suddenly the car goes sideways on me.
And in these conditions, that's just going to be amplified for sure. Let's check in. We've heard from Johan Schwartz's team. Let's check in with Ryan with the Copart B Bimmer World guys.
Yes, Dave Wagner is joining us here in the pit lane. We saw some very close racing out there between James and also Johan there at the start of this race. What did James say about that situation?
All he said is he just didn't feel like he left him enough room. Stewart said Sportsmanship Flag, which is fine. He was fine with it. So.
These conditions, it's something we wanted to talk about. The guys in the booth were wondering what you do from a setup perspective to get the car ready to race in the rain like you are today.
In cars like this, there isn't a whole lot to it, and so it's more of a small change here and there. Since we don't really make any downforce, we don't have the whole add the downforce as the rain deal. So not a whole lot that we really change on the car. A couple things here and there, and probably not something I'm going to give up on TV.
Fair enough. We don't blame you for that. Lastly, these conditions, does James feel like he can thrive racing in the rain?
Yes, James is good in the rain. He's happy with the rain, and he's actually helping coach the other guys on the team, which is part of his reason for driving here this weekend. So he helps coach the guys on the radio in the rain with what he's doing. So yeah, we do pretty well in the rain, we feel like.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, James has certainly proven that over the course of the years, and you know, I liked their response to Johan getting just a sportsman flag, saying, "Hey, he got a warning. We're okay with that.
Yep.
We'll go racing." So we look forward to going racing here as well as soon as this caution period ends due to the cleanup for Greg Nitzkowski. As the cars come out of turn 14, start their way up the hill, you can see the rain doesn't just affect the track and the race cars. Sometimes it can affect camera lenses just a little bit. You get a little bit of moisture on it. That can fuzz some things out. That's just part of the nature of the beast here. As the Acura NSX leads the field around. This gives us an opportunity, Cal. Obviously, we're at Road America, just a phenomenal venue and the like. Johan has clinched it, which certainly is good for him, but there are 2 more rounds left in this championship, and it's at a venue that nobody will have any prior experience on until the test day at Las Vegas on Thursday. From a team perspective, obviously it's a huge challenge, but do you feel if you maybe don't have quite the data book as some of the other teams on the tracks that everybody knows, that's opportunity?
It does, and you want to finish off the season on a high, give yourself some momentum heading into the 2020 season. You want to impress. There'll be drivers in this field that are trying to get the attention of some teams who they may be negotiating with for next year. So I love it. I think it's like going to a street circuit. There's no time to test and prep. It's like a different vibe. There's a different energy to those type of weekends, and certainly going to celebrate at the banquet at the end of that weekend where all of the champions and award winners will be celebrated. So it should be a fun one, and as you say, a little bit of the unknown.
Yes. Well, any awards banquet party is fun, but a Vegas awards banquet party, this could be pretty special indeed.
So you have your Elvis suit ready, right?
Oh yeah. I'm just shopping glasses.
I'll go as Elton John. How's that?
There you go. Now, hopefully we'll be able to get this incident cleaned up here, where it just takes a little while, obviously, particularly if you've got to make some repairs to barriers and such. The field continues to circulate. Just looking at anybody here, I think a guy, once this goes back to green, we need to be keeping an eye on. Sits 9th right now, is at 82 of Evans. He's been making some big progress up through the field.
He has, and unfortunately got wrapped up in the incident with Paul Terry. Terry's car was not fixable for today's race. Didn't look like it was going to be. Pretty much tore up that right front corner.
Right. And prior to the yellow, looking at fast laps for each of the drivers, his fast lap was 2 to 3 seconds quicker than the next 3 drivers or so in front of him. So he clearly has some pace. He just needs a little time here. It looks like they're getting that car up onto the flatbed, so hopefully this cleanup will probably have to do finish this lap and do 1 more, and then maybe we can get back to green. Okay, that lap in play is a 250. The top 3 all got into the 250s before the caution came out. Clay at a 250.7, Schwartz at 250.8. Grahovic at 250.9, and then Federo in that white Bossman Techsport Nissan at a 251.6. So kind of explains where that little gap has created itself.
Yeah, as I said, the top 3 just seem to be finding their rhythm, finding the groove, and the BMW seems to be very well suited to these conditions. So unless Federal and Rickon can pull a rabbit out of their hat, I'd expect the same top 3 to go race here for the win.
It's been really nice too in this latter part of the season to see Federo and that Techsport Nissan has really come alive a little bit, and part of the reason is the team put Eric Powell in that car to do a fair amount of testing on it to figure out where some of the speed issues were, and they locked into it. He, like I said, qualified outside the front row for yesterday's race. Was quick at the Glen, and always has had the skill set, but they finally got that car sorted. And kudos to Techsport for taking the time to make that happen.
Well, it's all about using your tools and your resources that you have available. And Eric Powell, they have a great driver. It's a shame to see him not racing as much as he should be right now, because he's a real talent in our paddock. But he came up to me at Watkins Glen and said, watch out for the Nissan. We've been tweaking on it, and it should have a lot more pace.
And you see that Bossman Products on the side of that white Nissan. That's Joseph's company, and it's a men's grooming product company that is all web-based in terms of like Amazon and the like. He created it from scratch, and it is doing real well. It's kind of a neat.
I thought you were looking pretty sharp here this morning, Greg.
Exactly.
For an early start.
We're just waiting to get an update as to the status down in that turn 13 approach.
A lot of water on that track.
Boy, isn't there?
That sounds an obvious thing to say, but what I'm saying is there's no dry lane
At
really
all.
appearing. It's coming down faster than they can really disperse it with these wet weather tires.
And from the start of the race to now, the rain has definitely intensified a bit. You can see it there in the camera shot. It is coming down with some intensity, not bucketing down necessarily, but it's coming down. So let's check in again with Ryan down in pit lane.
Alex Perry from Classic BMW just gave the word over the radio that lights are going to go off on the safety car. We're going green here soon. For Classic, a lot of cars in this field. Kind of high stakes, I suppose, from the team's perspective, racing in these conditions.
Yeah, I mean, it's really treacherous out there. The drivers are complaining of the super wet conditions right now. I mean, because you can see the rain's falling even harder right now. So there's a lot of standing puddles everywhere, and hopefully Toby's got something for Johan and James.
Toby and Johan and James yesterday put on a great show for us in race 1. You expect more of the same when we go back to green?
Oh, no doubt. Those three guys are tooth and nail right there out the front, so it should be a good fight right to the end.
Awesome. We'll let you go back to work. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Now you can see the lights are out on the safety car, so we are indeed going green next time by. Kind of gets the energy going in everybody now, knowing, all right, we have to get ready and get after this again.
Yep. Be working the brake pedal, throttle against the brake pedal, just trying to generate a bit of tire temperature as well. One thing that you find in wet conditions is that tire temperature makes a big difference as well. We talk about slick tires, getting tire temperature, getting the grip. It's the same thing with rain tires as well, Greg. If you start loading the car, that makes the tire perform better once it gets into its operating range. So for these drivers right now, they'll start working the tire. How you do that is trying to lean in on the brake pedal, running it against the gas, like left and right foot accelerator at the same time, left foot brake, right foot on the gas pedal. Just trying to build some heat up into the brakes so they're there and sharp when you need them. Just trying to generate as much temperature now before you go back. Oh, that was a big one. Look
Yes,
at that
it was.
car.
Wow. And he had a pretty good little hit at the Glen too, if you remember, down in the approach to the start of the S's. So it's been a tough 2-event stretch for Greg Nitzkowski, but good to see that he's out of the car and that we are getting ready to head back to racing here. It's the field making its way down through that Kettle Bottoms section of the track into Canada Corner. Well, we saw a brief moment. Lights were out on our Acura NSX official safety vehicle, but they have come back on again. We were anticipating going back to green this lap. And I wonder if they didn't just notice something that they weren't quite clear or comfortable with at this stage.
I think it may be the track surface, Greg. I mean, there has been a lot of rain coming down here over the last 10 minutes. If you said it's intensified, Mike, Ryan, what are you hearing on pit lane?
What I can tell you is that we're still taking shelter in the Classic BMW tent, and a pit lane official came up and asked them, hey, what are your drivers saying about the conditions on the track right now? And for what it's worth, they said they were good to go. They were ready to race, but I suspect that that was not a unanimous sentiment, and that might be why we're staying under yellow. Clearly, though, safety is of the essence. The officials checking in with the teams, making sure that the drivers are comfortable going back to green, and evidently enough voices dissented, and therefore we're in the situation where we're back under yellow.
All right, thanks very much, Ryan. And you have to appreciate that when the stewards who are up in a dry steward room, say, let's talk to the drivers. They're the ones that are out there and in the midst of this. And As Ryan said, a few said, yep, we're fine, and others apparently maybe not so comfortable with it at this stage.
Yeah, it just looks like you could start to aquaplane here pretty soon. It's getting to that point where there's just so much water sitting on the surface. And, you know, you can just see it everywhere. There's like this sheen.
Well, the one thing I noticed was when the safety car, when it was coming into Canada Corner, there were 2 spots there right in the braking zone where he hit puddles and the water just exploded. And that's the kind of thing at speed that no matter how deep your tread block is, you're going to get on top of it and hydroplane.
Yeah, and the difficulty with the race day is that we've got back-to-back races. So GT4 cars lined up, ready to go here in a few moments. So just need this rain to slow down a little bit. But there's nothing like having cars out there to try and move the water. So I don't think they're going to bring them in. I think from the stewards' opinion, they may want to keep these cars circulating, even if this race does not go back to green, just to try and keep the track in the best condition we can possibly get it in for further racing today.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And obviously, raining is okay. It's just when it gets to that certain level of volume of water coming down, that, as you said, that the track just can't quite handle.
Well, you could just see it there as you're turning into turn 8. There's just a lot of water that's being moved.
Yeah.
They've done a great job here, because in years past there was some really difficult areas where the track would just flood. So they've done an incredible job. I mean, getting back to Road America has always been my favorite here in North America, and they've continued to upgrade the facility. It remains old school and traditional, but they've continued to work on the facility. Every year you come back, it looks more and more impressive. They've got a lot of infrastructure they had to work through.
Lights continue to stay on the safety car here at a very wet Road America. And word now just coming from pit lane that we might see a checkered flag this time up the hill. Apparently the stewards, with input from the drivers, feeling it's just too much. And there's those spots where we're seeing an awful lot of spray into off of the tires into a very, very heavy braking zone from immensely high speeds. And apparently polling is being done. And it's possible that we might see the checkered flag as the cars come up the hill, Cal.
Well, that's a shame that we're not going to see further action. I think for James Clay, he'll be frustrated by that little move that Johan put on him, as giving Johan the track position and ultimately the win here today. But it's probably the right move in terms of we're not going to see any more green flag action. There's some tricky spots. I think exiting Canada Corner, we saw that big incident there for Nitzkowski. You don't want any more of that. It's, you know, there's another round in this championship to go at Vegas. No point in endangering cars and drivers for that matter.
Absolutely. So all eyes on the starter stand as the Acura NSX safety vehicle comes up the hill. There's Johan with James Clay antsy and hopeful. But, yep, there it is. Checker flag has come out. So the race will end just a little bit early. And as Ryan talked about, I mean, in the end, you have to consider safety above all. And if the drivers were really saying that there are some spots on this track that were going to be really problematic, especially at high-speed parts, you have to do what you have to do. And getting back to what you're talking about with the work that this facility has done over the years to just continue improving. A long time ago was the exit of the kink. They had that area. That's in the lowest part of the track. And you just have these puddles at one of the fastest parts of the track. And they've done a superb job of doing whatever they can. But it's just a certain point of just sheer volume at any racing facility that at a certain point you just can't dissipate it quick enough.
In the low-lying areas, you just can't move the water fast enough, whatever sort of infrastructure you have. But it's certainly way, way better. I mean, I came in this morning thinking, wow, we could have big puddling at the apexes of a lot of these corners. We're not seeing too much of that yet. But again, as it keeps intensifying, that could become more and more of an issue.
So they've done what they felt was absolutely necessary. From a safety perspective, can't argue with that at all. So take a look at what the provisional results are here after this 12th round of the championship. Johan will be getting yet another win on the season, and he has been racking them up. And clinched it yesterday and allowed him to be a little bit more aggressive and fun today. Clay, yesterday's a great run for him yesterday for James with that win in fast lap. He'll finish second. Grahovic third. Padero fourth. And Rika will round out the top 5. With Dimkov, Hull, Strymer, Evans, and Atwater completing the top 10. And as I said, the one regret here was I thought Cameron Evans in that Copart Bimmer World car was going to be somebody who might be able to move up just a little bit and make things exciting. We pretty much knew there might be some fireworks at the very front of this one to be able to go after it here. And I like the idea of how the team, Copart Bimmer World, brought not only James Clay in with his Bimmer World company as a partner for the team, but since he does coaching and works with them, to actually enter him here and get some straight up data and the like, and he showed what what can be done. And Cameron Evans has won one this year as well, so they're always there.
I think James Clay will be very frustrated by this. Had the win yesterday, so it's not been a bad weekend by any stretch. Great victory on Saturday here, but I think he had the faster car. I really felt that he was more comfortable in these conditions, particularly through this high-speed section than Johan was. So I think he'll be feeling this is one that got away from him.
And unfortunate at that for sure, but looking forward to hearing from the drivers when they make their way into Victory Circle. Just a few more corners to get there at this stage. Again, you can see the puddling and you see how hard this rain is indeed coming down. That's that part of the track you were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, just up there, just the way, kind of the way it's laid in lanes.
Yep.
And if you cross over that, it just really kind of gives the car a really weird.
Sort of that center seam. Yeah. All right, cars completing their cool down lap and heading up into pit lane. Johan Schwartz and the rest of the field making their way into the Victory Circle staging area here for this 12th round of the TC America for SRO Motorsports America touring car category. Johan Schwartz climbing out of the car, getting unbuckled, unclipped, unstrapped, everything you have to do these days after putting up another win. Maybe slightly controversial, but always showing off Sab Elton at West Virginia University.
He appreciates all the partners that he has on board. Does a great job.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He does. And I'm sure he'd want us to give a big shout out to Richard Zulman, teammate, who's been recovering from an incident. But now let's hear from Johan Ryan.
Our champion-elect in the touring car class, but also race winner here in race number 2, Johan Schwartz. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll take him however you can get him, but that was a strange race.
It was a little bit strange out there. I was actually starting to get a little bit of a groove, finding some grip. I was a little concerned about the kink. Actually, it had a little more grip than I thought initially. So it was kind of fun, but again, I'll take it any which way I can. And kudos again for the team for setting up the car so quickly and making it work in the rain. I knew there was going to be some chances for some double yellows, possibly, some long ones. So I wanted to be a little bit aggressive on my passing in the beginning so I could put myself in a position for that.
Well, to that point, take us through the pass for the lead. You and James had quite a duel. There was a little bit of rubbing going on. How did you see it?
Obviously we were racing, I think started in turn 5, then we went side by side in turn 6. I thought I gave him plenty of room on turn 6, and then I wanted to, and then obviously I was in the inside of turn 7, the fast kink, and it doesn't have ultimate grip in there. I was trying to keep it in there as much as I could. I have no intentions of going into him at that point, but obviously the car kind of drifted a little bit wide, so that was just hopefully good racing and good for TV.
All in all, a very successful weekend, a championship and a race win for Johan Schwartz.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a former TCB champion, and now we can add the touring cars. And it's just a great talent, and of course the all-time world record holder in terms of distance and time for a drift. But there are the results here. Schwartz, Clay, and Grahovic on the podium.
Yeah, I think as Johan said, he was still feeling the racetrack. He didn't look comfortable in the high-speed stuff. We saw that where Clay was all over him. So I think Clay may have had something for him if we'd gone back to green.
Well, let's find out if James Clay thought he did. Ryan?
All right, let's talk about it. The pass, we heard Johan's side of things about the battle that you guys had at the start of the race.
Yeah.
How would you assess the racing that you saw and were a part of?
Oh, I don't know. I always like to see the video on that stuff, but so I suspect everybody out here saw it. But you know, I was running a pace that I felt was comfortable, and you know, it probably wasn't as fast as I could go. But being the first guy through the conditions, I don't need to be as fast as I can possibly go. And you know, Johan went around me on 5 and 6. You know, I gave him plenty of room. Didn't even run him out into the rumbles in 5, which I felt was extremely generous, and you know, I just wish he'd had the same generosity in 7. So you know, but it happens. It's racing, and we're all out here racing hard. It's, you know, it was his move, so whatever.
All in all, a win and a second place. How would you assess the weekend?
Solid weekend, and you know, even though I may be a little grumpy with Johan today, he still carries that BIM World banner, and I really appreciate that. So congratulations to him on the win today and on the championship.
Congratulations to you as well. And if we might just step this way and go ahead and speak to third place, Toby Grahovic today. Not a lot of green flag racing. What were the conditions like?
It wasn't so bad in the first couple laps, but then it got pretty ugly for a while, especially going through the kink, going into Canada Corner. I couldn't see the cars in front of me, just hoping I stayed on the track. There's a few times I thought I touched the grass, but I don't know. It's too hard to see.
The decision to ultimately throw the checkered flag a little bit early, I know that the series went and they polled all the different teams along pit lane and got the impressions from the drivers about track conditions. What did you think about the track conditions and whether or not racing could be resumed?
Yeah, as the pace car lights went out, it started raining pretty hard in the back section, so it probably was a smart move. I was hoping we were going back green, see if I had a chance to take the win.
Well, podium finish in race 2. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, regardless of conditions, a real driver is always willing to give it a bit of a go. But this one started damp, and it got a lot wetter, Cal. But from the pole, James Clay looked pretty strong early.
He did. I think he had control of this race until Johan put that move on him in the early going from the pole. Then we see things starting to develop here. It's just good, hard racing in very difficult conditions today.
Absolutely, up into turn 6. This is where James Clay was talking about. This corner's lots of room. But here's that turn 7. As you said, as soon as you turn in, there's no grip, and there's that skate that Johan was talking about.
Yeah, and I think if you had to do it again, making a move in there, you know there's going to be a chance of contact, but Johan was willing to go for it and try and get the lead and get the win.
Absolutely, and from that point, Johan was able to go on for the win. Clay was able to hang in. We had a long yellow because of the incident of Greg Nitzkowski, and that's how it finished under yellow flag conditions. This is done at Road America. 2 rounds left at Las Vegas, an unknown for all these teams. Should be fun.